How's it going, my friends? We are back with another video, and today we're going to be going deep. I apologize to anybody who wanted just a quick gear tutorial or something quick that they could watch for 5 minutes, but I'm posting what I think is extremely important. I want to give you guys basically a masterclass, short masterclass in creativity. Okay, I've been trying to come up with this video and talk about this for God knows how long, but I think I'm ready to do it. Creativity is probably one of the most complex yet simple topics there is in the art world. You can go on YouTube, you can go online, you can go on ChatGPT and talk about creativity. You're going to find all different types of opinions on what this stuff actually is, where it comes from, and the ultimate golden question, is it learned or is this innate? Okay. Spoiler alert, I'm going to tell you that I think it's a mix of both, and we're going to talk about that. But ultimately, I want to talk about this, that I want to highlight that this is the most important thing in not just photography, but being an artist in general. And, you know, to me, living a life that truly matters, because not to go too far off course, but we got one life, guys. Nobody knows how long. I'm sure you guys have all experienced people close to you dying. You know, if you haven't, you're lucky. But we have one life, and we want to make sure that what we are doing is worth it, and that we are at least contributing in a way. You know, if you're on this channel, you're an artist, you're involved in photography, most likely, and you want to make sure that you're contributing your life in a way that expresses something, okay? And you can't do that if you're living a life that isn't looking at the side of creativity as something valuable and important. I want to start off by saying, and I don't want to come across as an asshole or anything, but this is really how I feel. Don't take creativity advice from somebody you don't feel is creative, okay? Because ultimately, to be a creator, to be a real creative, a truly creative person, what that means is you have to go beyond what people before you have done, okay? That doesn't mean that everything you do is going to be cutting edge. Everything I do certainly isn't. But the point is that if you're living a creative lifestyle and you're a creative person and you've harnessed that, you've developed that in your life, what it really means is the things that you do go beyond. You're trying to break the mold. You're trying to create something new, inject a new experience, a new feeling, a new thing, give it life. And a lot of people want to play that part. They want to take on, because, you know, especially in our culture, there's this mysterious, mystique type of aspect to a creative person. They move culture. They turn the wheels of culture. You know, they move hearts and minds within the culture. So that garners a certain level of respect. So people naturally want to emulate that. But there's different types of people here. There's people who just want to take on, you know, put on the coat of the creative person, and then the person who actually sets off on the journey to doing something different. And the reason why a lot of people only want to put on that coat, they don't want to actually go into it, is because it involves a lot of risk, a lot of fear, of opinions. Because, you know, the thing is if you're doing something truly different, most times it's not automatically understood by most people, okay? It's a deep self-reflection, and it's an expression of the things that are going on inside you personally. And putting that out into the world is, you have to be comfortable with a certain amount of risk. You have to be a risk taker. You got to be fearless, or you got to be driven, not even fearless, but you got to be driven by something that's more important than your fear of expressing yourself. So don't listen to people giving creative advice if you can't step back and be like, okay, what have you done? Let me look at this person, what they're creating. And is it what they're saying? Is it actually producing results? Now, you may or may not resonate with my work. If you click the links in the descriptions and all that stuff, you can see I put my portfolios out there. People can see what I'm doing with wedding photography. and make your own conclusions. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to break the mold. I'm trying to push past barriers. I'm not just trying to sell something that anybody can do, you know? And, it's a personal journey. So I just want to start off by saying, really be careful who you're taking advice from regarding this stuff, because you want to make sure that the person who's giving the advice is actually at least attempting to really break the mold and live creatively, you know? So let's talk about creativity, what it actually is. Or I guess the video is going to be centered around, I have 6 personal forces of creativity. I've been writing a lot. I've been writing a book for you guys, my community, and putting together more exclusive content, really building it. And it's taken a while because, you guys know I only do things when I'm inspired. And I want to make sure that there's real quality. It's the stuff I'm putting out there. It's really going to help you as a photographer or as an artist in general, no matter what you do, paint, sculpt, freaking music, dance, whatever you do. I really want to make sure that it's going to be useful. So I put together 6 personal forces of creativity where I really think this stuff personally gets harnessed from, in your life. But as a baseline, what is it? Okay? Like where do unique ideas come from? Ultimately, my belief is it comes from going inward. Okay? So that doesn't mean that you're a complete introvert type of personality. It's funny, I'm a kind of a dichotomy. Like if you knew me in the real world, most people, when they first meet me, they think I'm extroverted, especially when I'm on site shooting. I come across open, very good conversationalist. I can talk to people, but my extroversion in the real world, it's drawing energy out from me. It's like a battery. I only have a certain amount to where I have to go back inside by myself. I have to spend a good amount of time alone to where I'm recharging my batteries. And during that time when I'm alone, I'm thinking a lot about my work and, the photos that I want to create, the images, the messages, the things that I want to get out in the world. My life is sort of like a tree. It's like a tree. Like I want to bear fruit. You know what I'm saying? Like that's like my whole reason to live is like to bear fruit and to like give things and like new ideas and have things come off. And like I don't feel useful unless I'm doing those things. And I can't come up with new content and new ideas and new photos unless I'm spending a lot of time by myself. And during that time, I'm looking inward. Okay. So I've always been a really naturally creative person. Like when I first started off, like very young, I used to draw a lot, all the time. Then I moved into music in my 20s. I ran a music studio. I did that. And then I picked up photography and now I'm starting to write and things like that. So I've always kind of wanted to express myself, but it came from a baseline of wanting to express myself, having feelings inside of me that I wanted to put tangible things to in the outside world. So I was less getting my inspiration from the outside world. I was more getting my inspiration from the inside world. In fact, when I went into the outside world, I could pull things in, get inspiration, but it was like that battery. It wasn't as charged and there wasn't as much longevity. Like I can always go inside and go into my imagination and look inward into myself to come up with new ideas. So a creative person ultimately is the person that turns inward to look for direction, to look for sense in the world, to look for a message. And within each of us, I don't care who you are, there are layers of your personality. Okay? These personality layers stack. Okay? I picture them stacking inward and inward, okay? Or maybe outward and outward. And as they get further away, they become kind of more nebulous and like more foreign to you. Like you know that they're there, but they're not, you don't understand them as much. And so the person that turns inward is they know about these layers, they're aware of them, and they know that some of these layers conflict. You feel a certain way, but at the same time you feel a different way. You might have shame over something, but you still do that behavior. You might have guilt, you might have anger, you might have complete like love, you might have all these different almost, and I don't want to say personalities like schizophrenic, but you feel conflict inside of you. Certain things make sense on both ends of the spectrum. And so creative people are aware of this and they look inside themselves and then they are aware of those tensions of layers, of personalities. And they try to express them. That tension inside is really just an attempt to understand what's going on inside you and then express that out, make it make sense through your works in the outside world. So ultimately the creative person like looks within, they're not trying to gather inspiration. I mean, everybody gathers inspiration from the outside world to an effect for sure. But what I'm saying is ultimately, if we're talking about like creativity from like a real perspective, like something that means it's authentic, it's really coming from you, and it's something that is, you're trying to express something that really came from inside of you. You're looking inside and you're trying to make sense of those feelings and those conflicts inside of you and those pulls to different energy. Because that's another thing is like, as you go inside and you start to recognize these pulls in different directions, it creates energy, especially like that energy to want to express it or to understand it. So the creative person goes inside, okay? And that's really what it is. Like a lot of people want to this is going to be a long video, I can already tell, because this is just the intro about creativity. I haven't even gotten to the 6 forces yet, but a lot of people want to make this out to be like a creative person's like this like club, like you're in this club, like, oh, this person's like different, you know what I mean? But it's really not that. They're different in the fact of like the people, not everybody chooses to look inside themselves, or they just do it superficially and they're not really super into understanding what's going on inside of them, and they're not really that motivated to express themselves. So in that way, maybe it is sort of a club, but I don't think it's an exclusive club where like, if you're not born that way, you can't develop that. I believe that you definitely can. It's just, you got to start to be like, okay, like this is my focus now. I've learned the technical aspects of like, enough of the technical aspects of whatever medium I'm trying to express, whatever art form. Now I want to get this out into a unique message. I want to make something that's different. Well, how do I do that? Well, you turn the vision inside. You start looking at yourself. You start to understand what's going on inside you. You start to understand where the conflict is. You start to understand where the good aspects are, where the bad aspects are. You start to understand where the tension is, where the energy is, where the motivation comes from. Things that spark you personally. And as you go inside and you start to become more aware inside, you start to become more aware outside. That's really what starts to happen, is once you you look inside, things outside start to change. And this is like a new age type, thing. It's not like manifestation. That's like a buzzword nowadays. It's not that. What it really is, maybe it is, who knows? But like what it really is like, once you start to understand what's going on inside you, you start to, like, perfect example. You got a conflict, okay? Things that you're back and forth about, right? Inside you. You start to have more empathy for other people in the outside world who might not be so put together, might not have it all going on. Before, you would have been real irritated by that or have very little patience and stuff. But when you focus inward, you understand what's going on inside you, that same thing, then you start to have more empathy outside. And then you start to see the beauty of everybody's in the same boat, Like you start to look inside you and you start to see the personal beauty of things inside you, the good and the bad. you know, inside you and the conflicts and like, hey, I'm just a human, you start to slow down. You start to notice things. And I don't know how it happens, but I can tell you in my experience, it's very, very true because I spent a lot of time being super, yeah, just like there was a wall up. I didn't go inside, you know, I didn't look inside myself for a long time. I had a lot of things that I was trying to express, but I kind of shut it off. It's really only into my like 30s, like probably, yeah, like mid 30s, early mid 30s that I started to really kind of turn the vision like inwards. And that's when my work started to really get good and contain a message. So when you look inside you, the things outside you start to change. It's a very basic principle, but it is the absolute truth. So if you want to see things in a certain way, you know, you want to see things new, beauty, you know, around you or interesting things, stop, slow down, start noticing things that are different. You take that time, you start to spend time alone inside yourself and turn your gaze inward. So that's just the difference, okay? That's where it comes from to me. It's the creativity comes from that understanding inside, personal conflict, acceptance of what you are uniquely, how you are put together, because there is nobody on this earth that's like you. I mean, you guys really have to understand that no matter what level of skill you have, no matter what you've been through, no matter what your life has been like, there is nobody who sees the world exactly like you because nobody's had your experience. And that is real power when it comes to being an artist, is understanding that. It's like, hey, like all these experiences that I have, they're locked in my mind somewhere. I might not remember them, but I still have gathered all that information and it has created this personality and this way I see the world. And so that is power to like tell an authentic story through your art. That's where the power comes from because nobody else has your eyes, has your brain, has your experience. So let's get into the 6. I have them written down right here because I just went on a tangent. The 6 personal forces of creativity. Okay, we're going to talk about the first one, which is imagination. This right here is like, I mean, I've done videos on this before, but this is so freaking important. You have to start to develop your imagination, your personal imagination, active imagination. Let me tell you what I do before I go to every wedding or every photo shoot. I spend about 20 minutes by myself, laying down, eyes closed, phones in the other room, just imagining. I go to mentally, I'll go to the place where I'm going to shoot at, and I start to just let my mind wander. I start to think about light, think about different poses, think about what the bride and groom are going to look like in different rooms, think about like just all these different things. Just let my mind go crazy and come up with images in my mind. Now, rarely, not, I would say probably 80% of the time, the photos don't come out exactly how I have them in my mind. But the point is I'm starting with a baseline. I'm getting my imagination involved in the creative process. Wherever all that information is coming from and bubbling up into my head, I'm setting a baseline of, okay, I want my imagination involved in this process. I want something that's coming directly from me instead of, you know, scrolling Instagram feeds of photographers I like before I go to the shoot and try and recreating. I'm doing this by myself. And it's not that I haven't had input from other places, but it's coming from me and it always has like a unique signature that way. So you need to start getting your active imagination involved in your photos. You have to. It is critical that you do that. I'm telling you. You'll never, ever create work that's different. You'll never harness creativity. You'll never harness this force of creativity in a unique way unless you spend time alone, eyes closed, imagining up new photos. Try that. Even if you haven't been to the venue or place that you're going to shoot at, say you're going out to Colorado or freaking Italy or something like that. You've never been there before. Look up some photos of some landscapes, you know, that'll be there that you're going to go shoot at, just so you can get the image in your mind, and then take that image in your mind and then go from there. Start with a baseline of where you're going and then insert people, places, and things into the photos in your mind. Have different lighting scenarios, colors, whatever you're going to use, and let your imagination go that way. And I promise you, your photos will become so much better if you start off in imagination. So get your imagination hooked up and into all these photo shoots you're going to. That's the first one. Second one is mood, okay? Mood very much affects your creativity. What type of mood you're in, okay? It's going to affect the end result of your photos. If you're feeling awful, if you're feeling really depressed, down, sad, or something like that, hey, so surprised to tell you that your photos are going to become, they're going to have that bent, okay? They're going to have a more very moody, somber type of bent, okay? If you're super happy, you're feeling energized, you're happy, all that stuff, you're going to be looking for the couples or the people at the wedding that are laughing, that are going crazy, high energy, all that type of stuff. You got to check your mood. And this goes into, turning inside. You got to ask yourself, like, what am I feeling right now? Like, what type of mood am I in? Am I pissed off? My mind wandering, something that somebody said, or am I worried about this thing or that thing, or am I super happy and I'm feeling comfortable? Am I feeling free? You got to start to assess yourself and your mood, your emotions, how you're feeling when you're going into these photo shoots, because that is going to affect for sure. So that is a super important force, but there's not a lot to be said about it other than it goes back to turning inside and assessing where you're at before you go on to a photo shoot, because it's a powerful force in the creative process. Next one is nostalgia. This is one that I really love talking about, okay? Because this one is incredibly important and I haven't heard anybody speak on this. Nostalgia. Going back to what gripped you and what you were super interested in when you were like 15 years old. I made a post on my Instagram about this a couple days ago, which if you guys don't follow me on Instagram, check it out, the Monochrome Memoirs. When you were that age, 14, 15, around there, you were seeing the world in a new way. Your mind wasn't filled with programming from the environment around you that started to pick away or build your personality, however you want to look at it. But the way that you see and interact with the world, you weren't taken in by a bunch of different opinions and bombarded with marketing and all these different, messages around the world. So when you were that age and you started to come into your personality, you were following and engaged with the things that really sparked you because of it was connecting with who you really were. When you want to go back and find inspiration, one of the best places that you can go and look is back when you were that age, because you're tapped into those natural things that came to you early that sparked your interest, that moved you, that resonated with the real person that you were before the world got its freaking meat hooks into you. Like, that's what you have to do, is you have to go back to that time when you were a person who is fresh, who is looking at the world with new eyes and seeing things that naturally resonated with them. So what type of music were you into? What type of clothes did you wear? What type of art? What type of stuff did you gravitate towards? What were your friends like? What type of car did you like? What are those things that just naturally came to you? And if you can go back in that nostalgia and then start to reabsorb those things, start to listen to that old music, start to look at pictures of those environments, that car, that place that you went, that type of job that you wanted to have, those feelings. That's what we're really trying to get to, is those old feelings. that came to you when you were engaged with the things that naturally sparked and pulled you in when you were that age, you will find endless sources of inspiration and your creative engines will really start turning on. I do it all the time. I go back, um, when I was like that age, I was really into archaeology. Like I was completely captivated and still am by ancient Egyptian culture and the pyramids and the Sphinx and hieroglyphics and all that stuff. I was really into like dinosaurs, like archaeologists that dug up dinosaur bones. I was really into heavy metal music, all different types of like hard rock, really heavy metal stuff, punk rock. I used to skateboard and had a big mohawk and all this stuff. Like I was a certain type of person then, and those things naturally resonated with me. So I go back, I listen to that music. I go back and I, watch videos on Egypt and I do these things that reconnect me with that type of vibe when I was that age. And I start to get new ideas for photos and I start to get things. It happens by osmosis. Okay. You put yourself in the feelings of certain times in your life and you start to get messages that come through and then those messages go out into your work. Nostalgia is a really powerful thing to tap into if you're looking to get those creative engines turned on and starting to move. Very, very powerful. So far we got imagination, mood, nostalgia. The next one is taste. Taste is super important, okay? And it's not in an uppity way like, oh, I have the best taste. It's as artists, the goal is to make things that truly resonate, that land with our audience. And what is taste? Having good taste is understanding the creations, the moods that elicit an emotional response from other people. That's really what it is. Let me take a sip real quick. Excuse me. This is live, unedited. You guys know how I do these videos, and now I got the freaking hiccups. All right. I'm going to cut this out, get rid of my hiccups, and I'll be back. All right, we're back. Got rid of the hiccups. Taste. Taste is the next thing, the creative force that I want to talk about. And it's incredibly important because what taste actually is it's an understanding of what elicits a really strong emotional response in other people. Okay. And that's what we're trying to do as creators. We need to elicit an emotional response. And we have to, and that emotional response can be so many different things. It can be obviously like a really powerful response of love, overwhelmed with emotion, anger, fear, power, all that. But it's also a cool factor. It's also a smooth type of factor. It's sophistication. It's it's good touch. It's mystique. It's all these different things. They're all emotional responses. And as artists, we have to create things that actually land with other people because otherwise no one's gonna care. It has to elicit a good response. So you have to start to develop your taste. And I will be honest that some people are just naturally gifted with understanding these things. They have good taste by nature. They understand what looks good, what feels good, what smells good, all these different things. And it comes easier to some people. But I do believe that this type of thing can be learned. And your work will get so much better if you can start to understand what are the things that are considered tasteful, good taste. You have to really start to rub shoulders with that stuff and understand it. I mean, it doesn't mean that you have to spend all your money, going to buy the best of the best and go into debt to do that. But I mean, you could do things like, go to the, really nice clothing store, stuff you can't even afford. Maybe you can. Put on the clothes, go into the changing room, feel how it feels on you, feel how it fits, good materials. Understand why people dress this way, why they put these things on, what it feels like, why they're getting that response, or they spend $300 on a shirt. Why? It's because they feel a certain way when they wear it. Start to go have an experience of like really good, high quality food. Go to the art museum. Take a walk through, the Mercedes dealership, BMW. And not that these things, it's really, I don't want to come across as it's a pure materialism thing, because it's not. It's just, we live in a society where there's higher levels of manufacturing. There's higher levels of expression. And we value those things with money. And that can be true. I mean, the dollar value that something is that is placed on something sometimes is a good metric. Sometimes it's not, but sometimes it is a good metric. And so if you start to go through magazines, high quality stuff, start to understand what people consider good taste and start to understand the reasons why. Because if you can understand the theory behind it, start to develop good taste in your life, good surroundings, organized place where you live. Things look good, things feel good around you. People look at you and they're like, okay, that person is put together. You know what I mean? They have a style, they have some taste. Then that will, by osmosis, come out through your work. Taste is really important, guys, when you're dealing with art, you're making art. It has to land with other people. It has to elicit some type of emotional response. And if it does, then it's considered, you are considered an artist with taste if you can make it land emotionally with other people. So it's very important that you start to, feel these things out. You start to have these experiences with things that people consider, or that the most consider, good taste. Music, culture, art, clothes, food, experiences, things like that. Just expand your repertoire. It will help you and pay dividends, like very, very high dividends in your work. So we got taste. Then we have input through senses, which actually ties into taste. But input through senses is a creative force on its own, because you have to understand that your brain is a computer, okay? And we're programming it every single day by all this stuff we take in through our senses. That's the sensing mechanism through the world. Our touch, smell, hearing, vision, taste, all that stuff. That's how we experience the world around us. So we need to start being very discerning about what's coming in through our senses. What are you watching every day? What are you visually? Are you getting on the phone, just doom scrolling, looking at news and negativity? And I mean, shit, you could open up X and start to scroll and just see a murder, you know what I mean, on your phone nowadays while you're getting ready to go to work. I mean, people watch that stuff and like they think it doesn't affect them, but it does. And so these sensing mechanisms that we have, they're filters. And as we put things into them, we start to create the way we see the world. And then the way we see the world comes out in our artwork. So if we want to have the external things that come out of us be a certain standard and level of quality, then we need to make sure the inputs are up there as well. So you really need to start understanding that your brain is a computer. It really is. And you are programming it every second of every day with the stuff you take in through your senses. And it's not just your eyes or your ears. It's the stuff you touch. Understanding, holding good materials, building materials in your hand, quality things. There's a big difference in crap and good stuff. Take the good stuff in. If you have manufactured, cheap, disgusting food, take the good stuff in instead. Choose the high quality. Choose the good to bring inside you, to bring inside your computer, to program yourself in order to produce the highest level of work. Input through your senses is a incredibly powerful mechanism and force of creativity that will affect your taste, affect your mindset, affect your imagination, affect your mood, affect all of them. So be on the lookout for all the stuff that you're bringing in. Be very, very discerning about what you take in. The last thing is the mind-body connection. And this is going to be a little bit difficult to talk about in a way that doesn't, I guess, piss people off. But I want you guys to understand that the mind-body connection is real. And you cannot neglect your body if you want to be balanced. And that's what we're trying to do is we're trying to balance the mood of our mind with our body too. It's one. It's connected. It's one thing. What we do to our body is going to affect our mind and vice versa. What we think, what we have going on in our mind, it's an outward appearance in our body. It comes out. So this doesn't mean that you need to look like a bodybuilder and have perfectly ripped, sculpted everything in order to be an artist. What it means is you need to feel imbalanced. So that could mean if you're 100 pounds overweight and you feel awful about it, your mind's going to be affected by it. It's going to create negative energy up there. It's going to come out in your mood, in your imagination, through all your work, frustration, all that. You're not going to feel free. You're not going to feel open. You're not going to feel energized to go out and do things. But if you're 100 pounds overweight and you're totally fine and you feel great, dude, more power to you, and no judgment at all. Because I'm sorry, but the external ideas of what's beautiful that's, a physical beauty. It's not the same for everybody. So it's about how you feel personally. If you feel good in your body, then your mind will be in balance and you will feel energized and in tune with what's going on inside you in a balanced way. And you'll be able to go out there and create easier. But if you're in conflict, if your mind is in conflict with your body, for me personally, I don't feel sharp mentally unless I feel strong physically. And that's just how I am. Like, I'm not trying to be a bodybuilder. I'm not trying to, lift the most weight or anything like that, but I need to consistently exercise. I need to consistently feel connected and healthy in my body, or else my mind suffers. And that's just something personal about me that I understand. And so it's a personal thing with you. If you don't feel good in your body, then you need to start making the changes physically in order to be at peak mental game and peak centeredness, peace, able to look inward and then create outward. You have to feel good or as good and energized as you can in order to create the highest level work. I can't stress this enough. I mean, it is critical that you take the mind-body connection seriously, because a lot of people don't talk about this in terms of creation and being an artist, but it is absolutely important that you feel that balance between your mind and your body. So do whatever you can to make sure that you're connecting with the physical and bringing it in with the mental as well. So those are my 6, okay? So that is just a little recap here. We got imagination, mood, nostalgia, taste, input through your senses, and the mind-body connection. These forces of creativity, if they are taken as a whole and really focused on, you will be able to line everything up so the work comes out. And you'll be able to create something that's new, that is personal, and that you've taken all these years to get this technical skill right. And now you're able to really work with something that's going to land in the hearts and minds of other people. There was so much in this, and I can't believe this is probably the longest video I've ever made that wasn't a live stream. I would really appreciate if you guys gave me some feedback on stuff that helped you, if it helped you, what you thought of it, like all that stuff, sharing it. I can't tell you how much I appreciate like the feedback and the comments, and I read all of them. And even if I don't reply to all of them, I try and keep up. Like after like the first 100, it gets kind of hard, but I read all of them. And I really appreciate the shares and getting the message out there, because I don't take brand sponsorships or YouTube sponsorships or anything like that. It's just I try and teach you guys this stuff, just for the community. And so, the sharing and the commenting and all that stuff, it really, really helps. And I love to hear the feedback on what helped you guys. So, yeah, I really hope this helped. And till the next video, my friends.